Welcome for those of you watching this in replay mode. We want to thank you so much for joining us today on Cultivate Weekly. Every Tuesday, we try to show up for you to help you think about your content in a different way. And today's subject, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. And we're hoping that it might open your eyes so you can start sniffing out content that is all around you. And so we're going to be talking today about that content is happening everywhere around you. And Stephanie, the idea for this session actually came from a conversation that I was having with Scott Turner of Auden Hospitality, and he was talking about how he's kind of put on these new glasses almost of, and you can even think of it as like the meta glasses, even though that's not what I'm talking about. But when you start to realize that content is all around you. And so our friend Sean Walchef talks about building in public and bringing people along with you as you're thinking through things, as you're going through your day. So like behind the scenes, all that stuff. But what Scott was talking about is he's like, so he had done a vlog a couple of weeks ago or something. And he was like, I am dedicating to make cringeworthy content for this for this session. So just bringing in these different parts of your day and showing. And I may give an example a little bit later about that, but that's where this concept came from. Is that there's content happening throughout your day, in and around the work that you're doing, the conversations you're having, the experiences that you have. And so, how can you start to think as a creator? And that was what Scott was saying. Is like these glasses are my creator glasses, and how can I think that way now? My name is Elizabeth Doss, and I am a social media manager, content creator, as well as an animated GIF artist. My GIFs have been viewed over 6.2 billion times, and I help brands and businesses leverage the 14 plus billion GIFs that Giphy is serving up to over 1 billion users daily. And so I'm helping my clients be able to show up in that arena. And I want to throw everything over to Stephanie to introduce herself and also just to kind of kick this conversation off.
I'm always baffled, like in a good, positive way, like mind-blowing way, when you say how many times your gifts have been viewed. When we started and we connected what seems like forever ago, I think the number was just over 3 billion. So the fact that it's been doubled, mind blowing. Anyway, hello everyone, whether you're joining live or watching back on the replay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time to give back to yourself. Hopefully, this conversation inspires you to think maybe a little differently or broadly around content and the fact that, let's be honest, we're always trying to juggle, and it can feel really overwhelming that where do I find the content? How do I come up with the ideas for the content? And today we're grounding that conversation, the fact that, and the notion the content is in fact all around us. We don't need great big studios and fancy lights to be able to generate content that really connects, that starts to drive those conversations, that starts to build community and engage community, maybe help you find those ideal clients that you're looking for, and start to see conversation turn into conversion. So, with all of that, I'm Stephanie Gillis-Palgard. I am the brand architect behind Take Roots Consulting, and I help businesses and individuals really on that storytelling component, whether it is in that traditional form of media, way back in the day, that, newsletters and news releases and TV and all that jazz, to, yes, our favorite form of social media every day because we're all consuming it all the time. So I'm going to dive in because I've kind of made my own list, Elizabeth, as we were preparing. And of course, with my assistant, being able to take what is known about me and the work that I do, and very simply trying to formulate a little bit of a, hey, where do I see content and how do I grab content? Well, some of the examples that I'm going to share today are real life happening right now, today, or yesterday, as an example of how I look and see the world around me from that content creator perspective. No, I'm not, I don't consider myself to be an influencer. But we're all creators. We're not just consumers. We're sitting there and we're doing the scroll, but how are you creating? And it's those everyday moments or that you're living and breathing already. In my world, what could that look like? Something as simple as running a workshop or a community event and being able to take everything from building out what that content could look like in a brainstorming session or a strategy session when I'm talking through with a client about what it is that we're working on. I've delivered content around engaging your employees and allowing them to understand and feel like they're true ambassadors for the organization in that they work in, and then also take that strategy session and now move it forward 5 weeks to the day that you're standing in a boardroom or you're doing a virtual call and you're delivering that piece of content that you've created and capturing those moments and then seeing the reaction of the people in the room. Now, again, I'm not saying you need to bring a film crew with you. I'm sharing these ideas because there are very like low hanging fruit to collect that. Taking your phone and setting it up and just letting it record and going back through. Oftentimes we refer to that as B-roll footage, and then going back and overlaying through voiceover, or what were those three takeaways, or that moment that you literally saw it on somebody's face, that aha. So there's social proof that comes out of what you're doing. And now you're serving that up to a wider community in a different way. So thinking every day what you do and how you can grab it or collect that, document that particular piece, and then serve it up differently. What are those questions that you answer all the time with clients, either existing, potential, discovery calls? Those all of a sudden turn into the next 3 or 5 posts, from a blog or a written article to a reel to, if they've had a great experience, and we've talked about this before, Elizabeth, before I throw it back to you, is if you're doing a virtual discovery call and they've had an aha moment, well, ask them to tell you more about that. And obviously, we get permissions when we're recording people and all that good stuff. But that again is social proof of how you yourself work with a client or a group of individuals and can serve it up to a wider community in a different way. So again, we can dive into a whole bunch of other examples, but that's serving up just one thing and breaking it up into 10 different ways that you can serve it back out into your community. Over to you, Elizabeth.
That's so good because it's that collecting and your expertise as you're going. Sorry, got a cough. Don't want to do that in the microphone if I can help it. Um, so this, I love that because you're kind of scraping, not scraping, but you're. We get so used because we're like in our life. Hopefully, you're in your life, but we think that we forget that we have that it's not something that everybody can do, and we've got to put on those glasses of that. I do that sometimes when I'm listening to James preach, when I'm rereading a caption I've texted. I'm trying to put on ears that have never heard these words before, because I have my own thoughts, my own um things, and even trying to do that I think sometimes might not be work super well because we still have our own ways we were raised, the belief systems that we have, all these things. So thinking through that is kind of weird, but if you can put on ears that have never heard the words that you are singing before, you can go back and listen to the wisdom that you're giving, the insight, the the education that you're giving, and really get to dig into that. And I hear that, Steph, and what you're talking about of being able to harness where you're already at. I think if I could have, like, if in this half hour that we have, if I could just give people one thing about this, one way to put on creator glasses, it would be the idea of metaphor and analogies. Because even the small moments of your life could be repurposed to make a point, or to drive a lesson home, or to arc into what you want to share with someone. And so, how can you start to collect these small moments of transformation? Like, I've been reading Storyworthy by Matthew Dix, or Stories That Sell is his one for brands that are trying to do this in their businesses. How can you harness these transformational moments into content? And, we can it is all about storytelling. But I had heard Dan Thomas, he's a creator on Instagram, share this, that you can take almost anything around you and turn it into a metaphor, and then try to think about what it represents. So he, like, and I don't have like I don't have a glass here. I wish I had like a piece of like a think I'm hold pretend I'm holding a clear glass of water. And he had one and he picked it up and he said, "This is," so he started to describe the attributes of this glass of water. "This is crystal, it is clear, you can see through it. There it can hold things." Like, he just started kind of describing it, like, because he was just trying to do an example, like, right in the moment. And so he talks about creating social media content as well, but he was like, I want to be crystal clear about such and such, and like flicks the glass, and like, and he started to just use that glass of water as the example for the thing. Well, I have, things that have happened, uh in the past. Like, okay, the one that just jumps into my mind right now. um I picked up my nieces from school yesterday, and I had a little snack for them in the car, which I'm used to it getting everywhere, but some of those granola bars are so like, as soon as you open the package, it's going everywhere. And in my head, I'm thinking like, because I've seen parents get upset with kids for making messes and stuff, which if you've told them not to, that's a whole other thing. But there's this part where it's like, she was so apologetic when she got out of the car and I was trying to help her with her bags. She's like 7, so she had I was like, "Why do you have 2 lunch boxes?" She said, "Oh, I forgot this one last week." So she's like loaded down with like all this stuff. But look at it. There's just, I mean, the whole back seat is covered in granola scraps. And she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And like, she was gonna offer to clean, and I was like, "No, no, no, you're fine." Well, because vacuum cleaner, we can clean it up quicker than that. But okay, so I'm gonna take that as story because that was the idea that I was thinking of. Um, but that messes and mistakes are going to happen. Um, and so these messes and mistakes are going to happen, and that might happen even in your business, in your social media and stuff. But you need to cut yourself a break and know that, okay, I'm going to do my best to clean up this moment, this thing right now. And then be able to address it, but with calmness and with other stuff. And so, anyway, not yelling at yourself and not yelling at anyone else on the team, just understanding you're going to have to slow down and get it together and do this together. So, um, awesome.
And
I
I
so
and I have to say it's exactly that, Elizabeth. It's those little moments and the way you framed it as you've leaned into the notion of the metaphor. Like what does it actually mean and how can we take that in? We actually have Richard. He has a question and I kind of wanted to throw it back to you. His question is this: he started snapping his life, but he's not sharing it instantly as it's like just too overwhelming for him. So he's been saving it and using it later. Richard, I feel your pain. I've got over 20,000 pieces of either video, photos, all of that good stuff on my phone. And I'll give an example myself of that later. But to Elizabeth, it seems, he said, to be working, but it's less planned. Is the harvesting as you go the right way?
um
Thoughts, Elizabeth?
yes. So, oh, he just hung up. Cuz I was going to say, I think he's like calling in. Anyway, so we'll try to figure that out next time. Sorry, it must have timed out or something. But um so yes, collect everything that you can. Because but don't get upset with yourself that you can't post it right then. Like, I do this every time I go on a big trip. I try to blog and I try to journal, but I wear myself out pretty quick. And so I usually only get the first couple of days. and then I promise myself I'm going to go back and finish it, and then I never do. And so I hate that part. But something I told my mom to do, sorry, my mom went to Ireland. She's watching on YouTube. Hi, mom. She went to Ireland, and I told her, I said, Mom, you're gonna be so overwhelmed. Like we've done trips before. Like she's helped lead trips to Israel for over 20 years. She's been over 20 times. In fact, this year is the 50th year since her first trip to Israel. So or 40th. Mom, you'll have to tell us in the chat. Anyway, but she and my dad have led trips forever, so she knows what travel is and she loves travel. But trying to get all that stuff inside, so I told her, I said, you're not going to have time to sit down and write and format and do all the stuff, but maybe in the evening, just turn on your voice memo and talk about what happened that day, so you have a record that you can go back to and look through your pictures and know that you have both things together. And so she would do it. My aunt was, they were sharing a room, and my aunt was out there doing her work and stuff. And so my mom went in the bathroom to try to be quiet. And my aunt was like, who are you in there talking to? She's like, myself. And so, but she
Oh, I
has all
love it.
these recordings of her day. So it is about capturing that content. But I do think that there's a magic in, if you can get any of it out while it's happening, that people feel like they are there with you, they're along
Mhm.
for the ride. So even if it's not the full scope of it, giving them a taste of it, and just along those lines, it's a great way. But it is overwhelming to try to keep up with it, especially in moments like that where it's happening so fast. And unless you have a team that's following you around doing these things, then cut yourself a break on that side. But yes, collect everything, but try your best to not forget about it and go back to it. Because like Steph, you did this awesome this week, when with your trip to Spain from a couple of years ago. And so I was even thinking to myself, okay, I need to get in this mindset of, let me go back and look through
Yeah.
and try to figure that out. So talk to us about how you got, if you want to, and then take it
Yeah.
wherever you want to
Yeah,
go.
no, it's great. So a couple of updates, just so you know. Your mom says 50 years, she's only 40. And like Richard and others, like Richard traveling last week for work and then talking about it maybe at the end, or what were the outcomes, what were the aha moments. Those are great examples of it. In my case, the one that you're referring to, Elizabeth, that piece of content actually became real because earlier in the day, thank you, Facebook, it was a memory that was served up. And I was looking through it, I was like, I can't believe that was, 6 years ago. And it's kind of fun to be able to look back at that and go, look at how far you've come, or look at what the lessons have been, or the fact that your, in my case, my work had taken me from Edmonton, small town girl from Cape Breton, and here I am in Spain or in Madrid the year before, or finally making my way bucket list to Paris, but all through my work. And if you had asked me 5 years ago or 7 years ago, when I was thinking about it, like, where do you see yourself? Well, no, I would never have been able to dream those things up. But to be able to go back and relive those memories and those experiences, and to remind myself and ground myself into, this is why I do what I do. Sure, the trips are the bonus, but it was all of those other pieces. But it was actually started because Facebook, I had initially, posted it on Facebook on my personal page, just going like, hey, look, I'm having my first meal in Madrid. And I had toured around and like reliving that first day, and all those feelings that came with it was amazing. So, yes, harvesting from those Facebook memories, or even Instagram does serve them up, right? Like if you do a lot of stories, they'll show you what you were doing this time last year. So use that as inspiration. What are the lessons that you've learned since, right? Those are real, those connect people. If I had known this 5 years ago, what would be different now? So, in your own way, it's your own little strategy session turned into therapy or micro lessons on, and then serving it up to your community. So that's exactly it. And I tend to agree. I mean, I joked about it earlier, but I try to clean up my phone on a regular basis, but then I get like, no, I want to keep that. I'm not sure how I'm going to use that yet. But I'm also guilty of having a lot of things in draft because I feel like they're either just not ready, not polished enough, and you have to give yourself permission. We talk about permission slips a lot and giving ourselves grace to serve it up as it's intended, because that realness, is what connects people. And the fact that, yeah, I might have a ring light over me for better lighting because it's still not full daylight outside, but I don't have a big fancy studio, and that's completely okay. You can still be a content creator with all the fancy equipment. And I think now more than ever, that's just phones have made it a lot easier for us to show up that way.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, and something that I love to stuff about, because I love the memories side of thing, and like and farming that, like for content, because we have these connections with these moments and these things in our lives, and how can we bridge that into a connection with people? Because while I've never been to Spain, I have felt some of the things that you talked about in your post. And so anyway, I just think it's a great way to connect, because we get in this mindset of sell, sell, sell. Like, and what's on YouTube and other places, the very first thing that we do when a sell, sell, sell ad commercial comes up, we're going to skip it. We don't want to hear it. But what we do want is to connect with people and to connect with their stories, and to say, I haven't experienced that, but I have had this similar thing. And I do strongly recommend Matthew Dix's book, because he talks about finding the transformational moments. And so when you're thinking about a memory, and when you're thinking about how you can arch that into where you're at now, think about what the transformational moment that happened in that occurrence is, and how can you take that idea behind it and bridge it into the content and the things that you're creating. The other place I was thinking, Steph, and I'll hand it back to you after this, is because I did what you did with ChatGPT, and I hate that this is the first one. But it talks about venting, because chat gpt gets a lot of my venting, because I ask it a lot of times for responses and help with apology texts, and also with how to deal with certain circumstances in my business, etc. But one thing it was saying is that, because we're talking about finding content everywhere, so even in your places of frustration and where you're venting about a client, about a circumstance, about whatever, there's content right in there. Now, you don't have to jump on there. Like, people love to jump on and go after something or be crazy about something. What you can do instead, though, is say, this is really frustrating because there's a better solution. Well, instead of just complaining, give the solution. James and I were at the PGA championship. He'd helped the law firm he was working with. They rented several houses on Kiowa Island, and they were flying in executives from major corporations to come and go to see different rounds, and then they would fly. It was the whole big thing, because it was on Kiowa Island, so people were having to stay off island, and that travel time was an hour every day, because there was one 2-lane road with giant buses that were bus. It was just chaos. So them having houses on property really made it very cool. But there was a dinner where there were 2 extra seats, and so the managing shareholder invited James and I to join them, which but you're sitting at this table with some of the major players in the world. So, it's just, you come to listen, and fill the seat. But there was an attorney for, if I said the name, you would know what corporation this was. He was the lead counsel for it. And he said, I know what kind of meeting it's going to be if somebody comes in to my office with problems. What I want them to do is to come into my office with solutions, meaning they've taken the time to think through the problem and then say, okay, here's a couple of ways that I think that here's what's going on, but here's a couple ways that we can address it. And I think that's a great way even to think of your content to say, okay, we have these problems. I'm having these issues with this client. How can I start speaking and start creating content that educates uh, for this moment or that helps you understand and all those things. Anyway, I'll hand it back to you, Steph.
Well, first of all, super cool. And Richard would like to say that Ryder Cup next year in Europe is where he would like you and James to be. I'm just seeing that in the chat, so that's hilarious. I think I'll come along for the ride if that's okay. I tend to agree with you. It's like we all have those moments of frustration. So, but where's the lesson in it? What can you take from it? Share, learn, or have a little bit of fun with it, whether that's a funny meme, because we all have those. You and I, Elizabeth, we've talked about how we can talk to a family member or a good friend all in gifts. Like, how do you just put that into play to have some fun along, like Richard would say, and I'm sure he's going to probably put it in the chat. Don't be boring. There is a way to use even those frustrating moments to be a teachable moment, a lesson learned, a what not to do. Here's what I learned and how I'm going to either change the way I show up or deliver something, whatever that case may be. So start thinking about that. And then I guess another piece when thinking about content being everywhere, I know so many people. I love that volunteer, and volunteering is a big part of who they are, and community moments and being out and about in community. That shows another side of you. So it's maybe you're used to taking a picture, having a picture in front of a step and repeat, but like, why are you there? And telling that part of the story. What I'm also leaning into, and maybe people will say, no, Stephanie, I don't see that on your Instagram just yet, but you will. It is going to be rolled out. It is this notion of faceless content, if that makes sense in how I'm framing it. Of it's the hand writing the note, it's the tool that you're using, it's the mode of transport, like Richard going to Ireland. Did you go by plane, train, with plane, trains, and automobiles kind of concept? It's other pieces like that that just help you tell the story. And obviously, being somebody who loves the storytelling piece, sure, you should show up. It should be you. People connect with people. We know this. But those faceless moments, there was one picture in the whole carousel of me in Madrid. And it was so funny for me to look at that picture because I was laughing hysterically at the sunglasses that I chose to wear, and they were way too big for my face. And I was like, where on earth did I buy those things? But it was like just that, like it was a part of it, but it was also the laughter that brought the memories back in. And so I think you need to have a little bit of fun along the way. Not everything needs to be serious. Yes, we need to get out of the mindset of sell, sell, sell. There is a way to position yourself as a thought leader, as a key opinion leader in your industry, or, just sorry, I'm getting all excited because I have a latte in front of me that I have yet to take the first sip of. I just don't know what to do with myself. That in and of itself is content for days, right? Stephanie and her coffee chats, the relatable mini stories, but it all comes back to storytelling. And the fact that, like we said, based in the fact, look around you, content is everywhere. Does it have to be perfect? No, but it can be relatable. So don't forget to show up with that lens as well. As you wear your creator glasses, think about how you're showing up. And yes, it can be a little overwhelming at times, the 20,000 plus images and videos on my phone, but the memories serve up and they're relatable. And so we always need to think about how we are showing up for our community, and people do business and relate to people. So be you and own that piece of it. That is
Exactly.
enough. I'm taking a drink of my latte. Over
Do
to
it.
you, Elizabeth.
Do it. Do it. Um, so one thing that when some of the clients that I work with, they don't understand that people need different types of content to interact with. And this is why I think, Stephanie, the content buckets that you've talked about, the content pillars in the past of educational, inspirational, about you like sprinkling that throughout is really important, because you need to give your audience easy things to like or interact with or to share. And that's one place that Instagram values the sharing and the saving that people do. And if you're not creating content that, if it's just sell, 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 and you're not creating content that's inspirational or educational, then you are missing out on having building community around thoughts and ideas and other things. And so I did want to include that in this message, that those little moments of your day where you're just pondering that thought, or what's going on. Yes, selling content is boring equals boring. Um and so how can you walk that out in simple ways that, because we get caught up in this whole like, the whole Instagram, like, perfect life,
Yeah, the perfect feed, the perfect everything,
right?
right?
But it's noticing when your real life is the story. And I think that freaks people out, especially if you're like a one person business. Like, you think you got to come across as a certain professional, but the truth of the matter is people are going to engage and interact more when they know you're not a robot. They want to know you.
Like,
They want to get to know you before they work with you. They want to know what it's like to work with you. They want to know what one of your days is like. And so, how can you bring them behind the scenes, but also bridging from the content that's already all around you into sharing that story with them? So, I want to thank Stephanie for joining me today for this conversation. Thank you, Richard, for your question and jumping in there. We want to invite you all to join us every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Or Eastern, or 8 a.m. Mountain. And just, we love to hear your questions. We love to hear from you. And we want to help you be able to continue your creator journey. And I'm going to hand things over to Stephanie to close us out today.
oh my gosh, you did such a great job and covered everything. All you know, and you don't even have a cup close. So I'm just going to say, cups up, everyone. Keep showing up. Remember, again, people relate to people, people do business with people. Think about your real life mini stories, mini lessons. Repurposing is your friend. Think Facebook memories. How do you serve those back up again? Lean into it. I know it can be overwhelming, but hopefully these conversations, if anything, show you we also struggle from time to time. We're overdoing the business, forgetting to post on our own stuff. And it's a little bit of a balancing act. Have I found that perfect magical answer? No. And that's okay. And I think that is real. And it's okay if this week means that you're going to see a lot more of Stephanie on a certain platform. Great. And if not, I'll be back next week with a latte in hand. So we'll see you next Tuesday. Cups up to each and every one of you. Have a great week. Thank you, Elizabeth. As always, so much fun.
Thank you.